Yes, we shall start now. Actually, I am not well today, so I will not be taking up a class for very long. But still, we have a class on risk management today. So what I have done is I have one case study on risk management today. It's a 6-page case study. We can discuss on that. Okay. Okay. Is my voice audible to all? Rajiv, Sanovar, Sahir, Kelvin, Prabha. Okay. Let's start. It's a small case study on risk management. So it is on NSE, National Stock Exchange. NSE is the largest stock exchange in India, catering to 1200 plus members. Globally, NSE has been ranked second in stock index options and third in single stock futures and stock index futures. The business process of NSE are heavily dependent on IT. Average daily turnover of trades processed by NSE are 14,41,010. At a national level, NSE is a critical organization for Indian economy and is defined as one of its most sensitive organizations. The criticality of business operations required NSE to focus on risk management as an integral element of its day-to-day business processes. Up until this new focus, the existing risk management process mainly focused on addressing business risk. The IT risk assessment method was complementary to the business risk process, and the approach adopted was periodic assessment, which until now was considered adequate. So, however, during the review of risk assessment, it was observed that the dynamic nature of the business environment had been prompting frequent changes in IT infrastructure. These changes constituted not only change in hardware, but also included revamping applications and identifying new service delivery channels. This prompted the decision to revisit the IT risk management approach. So, the IT risk management project was initiated with a primary objective to ensure that ongoing risk assessment was an integral part of IT operational and governance process. Milestones and deliverables for this project are listed in figure 1. So what happens is, when you start any new activity or whenever you revamp or restructure your IT organization, there are a lot of risks involved into that. So from there comes the concept of risk management. If there are risks, so you have to be prepared for those risks in advance. So there are 4 things you can do with risk. You can transfer the risk. You can transfer. You can prevent the risk, number 1. You can transfer the risk. So 100% of risk cannot be resolved, but you can take precautions from your side to resolve risk. What you can do is, you can prepare a risk register. In risk register, you can note down all the risks which keeps on occurring from time to time, so that will help you in resolving the risks. If you have the risk register, in risk register you have certain risks along with the solutions to resolve them. So this is how you can, one of the ways of managing risk. Secondly, you can adopt the IT governance process from some recognized companies, or you can outsource it to some third-party vendor who has already successfully installed these projects. So there are less chances of getting any kind of risk. So like COVID IT is one of the models for IT governance process. So there are a lot of risks. There are a lot of processes and models present which will help you in resolving the risk. So choosing a guiding risk management framework. As a first step to achieve the objective, a comparative study of available standards and frameworks was performed to identify a framework that would meet NSE's IT risk management requirements. The criteria used for evaluation is described in Figure 2. Framework evaluation criteria. The framework should integrate with IT operational processes. So risk evaluation is an ongoing process, and it is necessary to integrate the risk evaluation process as part of normal IT operations. Second, the framework must be linked with the control environment framework. NSE needs to implement controls that will help in mitigating identified risks. Third, the framework should provide for the monitoring of risk and help in identifying parameters for monitoring. Risk monitoring refers to monitoring of related scenarios that will enhance the risk materialization. Fourth, the framework must provide for a governance process. Risk management shall continue to work in silos unless linked with business objects. Governance framework should include a risk monitoring process. Last, the framework must be flexible and should integrate easily with the business processes. IT risk, if materialized, impacts the business objective operations. Hence, it must be able to link with business objectives. So, let's see the risk management framework. So, Risk IT provides granular guidance on risk management processes in three major areas required: risk evaluation, risk response, and risk governance, covering all traditional risk management processes, including risk identification, risk assessment, risk response, risk treatment, and risk monitoring. So Risk IT focuses on linking IT risks with business objectives rather than IT assets. So it is the only framework that provides detailed processes for IT risk governance. Risk IT is focused on building risk scenarios that help in directly linking risk management with business processes. Let us enlarge it more. So in risk response, you see, you manage risk, you articulate risk, you react to the risk. Then risk governance is you define your IT structure, your CRM, your roles and responsibilities. Then you establish and maintain a risk view. Then you make risk aware business decisions. Then how you evaluate risk? You evaluate by analyzing risk, by maintaining risk profile, by collecting data. So this is a IT risk management framework. So NSE's high-level objects for each area of the framework are: risk governance, maintain a common view, maintain standard risk register to provide a risk update in business terms, define the organization structure, define roles and responsibilities across the organization, to review and maintain IT risk profile, then make risk-informed decisions, provide IT risk dashboard to IT management to enable risk-informed strategic decisions. Then risk evaluation, you collect data, you prepare risk scenarios, conduct risk identification workshop, establish process touch points for risk updating, and link the update assessment with the business impact analysis. Then you analyze risk, you use a standard table for defining likelihood and impact, use the Delphi technique wherever required. You maintain risk register, update and maintain the risk register to develop the risk profile by aggregating departmental risk. Then risk response, you articulate risk, that means you establish a process for defining risk response and communicating to stakeholders. Second, you manage risk, maintain a control catalog with risk mapping and define the review process. Third, you react to risk events, establish a link to incident management, change management and operations management to review risk. Then NSE's business and IT mapping. NSE provides IT-based services to members and brokers for trading in securities on behalf of their clients and investors. There are multiple different market segments. Each market segment has 4 major processes: trading, risk management, surveillance, and clearing and settlement, in addition to various supporting processes. Figure 4 depicts the mapping of risk management processes covering these high-level IT processes. So this is a business process you can see here for this National Stock Exchange. Then how they have networks, they have hardware, they have databases, they have applications. Then they have IT projects and applications. Risk profile for each IT application, process management. Then what is the implementation approach for the risk management? Select applicable risk scenarios for IT applications, processes and projects. Identify various applicable areas of risk. Identify the business impact and the likelihood. Identify existing controls. Validate the result with IT teams. Validate risk register. Ensure continuous monitoring, reporting and communication. So the implementation of risk management was conducted at 2 levels. Number 1, you develop risk register for business functions in which you note down all the type of risks which occurs. Number 2, you define aggregation process to arrive at an organization level risk profile. Second is business processes were categorized in the following areas: most critical core production, critical production and support functions. So for each business function, the following activities were performed: conduct risk evaluation, facilitated workshops, generate risk profile for inherent risk, determine response options, identify and assess controls from control catalog, identify positive and negative control gaps, define a plan for closing control gaps, finalize the risk register and obtain confirmation from risk owner. For aggregation of the risk profile at the organization level, the following activities were performed: build a matrix for all identified risks, collect department-wide data and build the matrix, and weightage of criticality for each department, arrive at organizational level risk profile, review and sanitize the risk profile by eliminating mathematically inappropriate impacts and likelihood, present risk profile to board and senior management. So these are the things which you can do to manage the risk or to deal with the risk. Now what is the risk management process? NSE concluded that changes in the risk need to be tracked on an ongoing basis and identified the following triggers as having an impact on risk status: incidents, events, changes in IT and business environment and procurement based on strategic IT decisions. Figure 6 shows the risk updating process based on these identified triggers. One is the risk assessment, then document update, and third, risk register update. How they can do the risk assessment? They conduct risk assessment for existing risk, for identified new risk. Then how they do the document update? They update master for risk catalog, control catalog and risk and controls mapping. Fourth, the risk register update. They update or create new risk register for new risk areas, risk impact and likelihood. So a uniform scale for quantifying the likelihood and quantitative impact assessment was defined for use across the organization. So conclusion, use of risk IT framework helped National Stock Exchange in building a uniform structure and view of IT risk across the organization. The risk IT framework helped National Stock Exchange in presenting a uniform view of IT risk to stakeholders. Use of scenarios and avoiding jargon encourage stakeholders to participate in the process. Third, defining a monitoring process for continuous updating of change in the risk profile. Fourth, acceptance by risk owners. So an Excel-based tool that automatically updated the risk profile is being used to track and maintain risk changes. The risk profile is presented in 3 stages. One is inherent risk. That means total risk without controls. Second is current risk. Overview of current risk based on existing controls. Third is residual risk. Risk after applying control gaps. So the residual risk is arrived at after considering the impact of implemented controls over inherent risk, considering the future roadmap and alignment of the risk IT framework with COVID 4.1. Control objectives were used to identify control gaps and to assess the impacts of control on the risk profile. So that is a small case study on risk management. So any doubts, anybody? Any questions, any doubts, anybody? Any doubts, anybody? So these are the different ways, or these are the different steps and processes which you can follow to manage IT risk. Since technologies are keep on changing, lot of patches and upgrades are coming, IT systems are changing, revamping is being done. So to cope up with any kind of risk, you need to adopt a defined risk procedure so as to avoid any kind of risk. That will help you further in saving business. So that is, I think, since I am not well today, so I will not be continuing with the class. So since our today's class is on risk management, and this particular presentation has given you a lot of exposure to the risk management. So I think we can just stop here and we can take up the class tomorrow. Okay? I'm sorry, but I'm not well today, so I'm not able to take up the class. Okay, so thank you all for your time. Just do give your feedbacks after the class. Thank you.